Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion. Plays the Bunny Basic Afterbirth Plus. Always hurts to see a number 1 instead of the streak we deserve. J8RLQ0GR. I'm gonna give it a shot here. Probably shouldn't have used it on this floor, but whatever. This run is actually, you're gonna think I'm being a little negative, but this run is pretty bad. What a shot! Lemon mishap, the ability to fly, very big bright spots. 13 rate of fire, 2.74 damage. Not so much, you know, like a lot, like that's pretty, it's not very good. And we've been starting with behind the 8-ball for a little while now, a few runs in a row. It's okay, it happens. Truth be told, for the way we played a few runs ago, we probably did deserve to lose at some point. I was hoping it wouldn't be, you know, the run immediately after, but it works in mysterious ways, you know what I mean? At least Lemon Mishap is usable. And, you know, I was just going to say, a good item room here early, nothing to complain about. Excuse my hydration, it's the last recording of the day. Also recorded, or also did a stream today, so this, feeling a little parched. Gotta take good care of the voice, you know, the money maker. The video that Dan Mathis and I recorded of Tarkov, where we see the laser pointer, and I go, hey Dan, your gun has a laser pointer? And then he goes, no, that's not me! The edited version of that, where we then get murdered by Darth Vader from Rogue One, made it to the very tippy top of the Escape from Tarkov subreddit the other day. I was happy to see it. Thank you for the, you know, the kind comments, even if you didn't know I was reading them. Larry Jr., please. Oh! He swerved me, dude. Come on. There we go. Got one of them, at least. Got both of them, more or less. One of the people said, dang, that's a sexy voice. And I think they were talking about me, in which case, sir, I'm married. But also, thank you, you know? Yeah, you know, genetically speaking, I wouldn't say that I was, you know, I lost the genetic lottery. I got pluses and minuses. You know, I was born and have lived my life in good health. Strong stock, and you know, the real knock is just like, I went bald when I was like 19. It's traumatic for some people. You get over it, I guess, unless you're Corey. Let's move this down to the next floor. But you know, the voice is definitely a big part of it. You know, you don't have that much control over your voice. I mean, some people do, like that Jeff Dunham. You know, the puppet man, the man with the comedy puppeteer. He's very cerebral. I'm not sure if you've watched much of his content. He is a character that he is really good. It's kind of subtle though, so you got to pay close attention. Is a puppet of a skeleton wearing a turban, and his name is Ahmed, the dead terrorist. And then whenever Jeff, who is the ventriloquist, does something that angers Ahmed, he says, "Silence! I kill you." And then all of our parents and grandparents laugh in the audience, and then they go vote, like, on everything. Like, not just the major elections, but also, like, you know, what are we gonna rename this street to? I know. Anyway, Jeffrey D, as I call him, he's a hoot for sure for some people. And where was I going with this? Oh yeah, you don't have too much control over it, you know, your natural tone of voice. You just get lucky with it, you know? So I try to keep that in mind, you know? If I was ever salty, like, oh, I wasn't born tall enough to be a professional basketball player, my eyes aren't good enough to be a fighter pilot, which, you know, as a kid seemed like a big blow. As an adult, I'm like, dude, thanks for the save. First off, seems dangerous. Secondly, seems nauseating. Thirdly, I don't want to fly in any Bombardier products. I'm already on the SkyTrain now and then. Anyway, that's not fair to my good, well, that was to my good friends at Bombardier. It's a Canadian engineering firm. I don't mean to insult Bombardier. I fly on the CRJ 200 from time to time, but every time I do, I get on and I go, you know, please be a regional Airbus. Please be a regional. Wait a minute. Is this CR? Let me hold on. Let me. I'm gonna say Aviation. CRJ21. It is Bombardier. Then you click on accidents and incidents, and ooh, let's not worry about that. Number one video is a dude flying on the Bombardier CRJ200 regional jet. Sucks. Dude, I love that. And this is gonna sound insincere. I mean it very sincerely. I love this era of the internet where, like, there's nerds about everything, and then because there's nerds about everything, there's like YouTube channels that pander to nerds about everything. And again, I know that it sounds like I mean that, like I'm insulting that person. You know, this is a pot calling the kettle black situation for one, but really I think it's cool that there's people out there, and they've existed for a long time because flight simulators exist, but they're so like dorky about aviation that they're like, yeah, I watch all this guy. His name is Jet Lord on YouTube. He flies a lot and he makes videos. Like, you'll never believe where they put the power outlets on Japan Airlines flight, Boeing 787-600 orders. It's out of control, dude. I mean, does that sound normal to you? I love it. I sincerely actually love it until you find out some of Jet Lord's more, perhaps, controversial opinions has been happening now and then lately. Anyway, we don't need to go down that road. Jet Lord is a person I made up. We don't all need to suffer together learning more about them, okay? It's just... I mean, really, George Clooney from Up in the Air is kind of a Jet Lord, right? I remember, I read an article once about a guy who, he got, like, the unlimited flying status. I think it was Delta Airlines, or American, maybe, used to offer, like, hey, if you get, you know, 2 billion frequent flyer miles, we'll give you a free ticket on any flight you like for life. So you could just, I guess, show up at the airport, and if the flight wasn't full, you'd be like, yeah, put me on that one. And what the dude would do before they discontinued it, and I think he sued them for, like, a lot of money, and rightfully so, because he earned it based on their terms. But anyway, hold on, let me hydrate here. I read it was either an interview or even his blog, and he was like, yeah, you know, this weekend I was a little bored, so I just got on a plane at JFK International Airport, and I went to Dubai. And then when I landed in Dubai, I had lunch, and then I flew back. It's like, man, first off, that sucks. Also, do you hate the planet? But also, that owns. I'm actually, it's a complicated maelstrom of emotions, but, like, it's really cool that this guy has found something he loves so much, and it's sitting on an airplane in the sky, being yelled at to put his Nintendo Switch on airplane mode. Maybe that's just me. It's hard for me to be sincere. Like, I'm genuinely not besmirching. I mean, this is the pursuit of, like, wealthy individuals, you know? This wasn't the dude who was like, I've worked as a CNC operator for 35 years to afford this lifetime. These are, like, you know, high-level executives for companies, or, you know, self-employed business people and stuff like that. So, you know, they're like, I'm bored. What could I do that could impress my friends at the country club? I know. I'll fly to Beirut and back. Way better than having a private jet, though, right? People always talk about, oh, dude, it'd be so cool to have a private jet. Private jet, they scare the crap out of me. First off, the smaller the plane, the more dangerous it is. Secondly, I don't think they're beholden to the same... I mean, did you see the Fyre Festival documentary? The private jet pilot that they had that flew them out to that island in the Caribbean? First off, he seemed competent, and he was just about the only sane dude in the whole friggin' movie. But they were like, where'd you go to flight school? Where'd you do your training? And he's like, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Look, I played like 200, 300 hours of X-Plane. Am I confident that I could fly a, you know, consumer-grade airplane? No. No, not at all. In the simulator, it's not that hard, but You know, you don't want to, stuff goes wrong up in the air. You don't want to be like, hey, just give me a second to check the wiki, you know? But still, more power to him, don't get me wrong. Again, he seemed just about the only dude in the whole movie who had his head screwed on straight, which is also why he was fired. Because he was like, I don't know if this festival's gonna work out right now, guys. And they were like, well, clean out your desk. We're not a problem-focused organization, Johan. We're a solutions-focused organization. Still one of my favorite quotes. It's just, the audacity of that it gets me every time. It's a little, I get it, it's not the same caliber as like Jeff Dunham humor, you know, it's like, it's not as much of a thinker. Anyway. Dude, he's really going in on Jeffy D this video. Oh, I'm saying it! I'm just saying, I think the puppets carry Jeff, not the other way around. Where was I going with this? I don't know. I think that's cool. There's people, and you know, there's been a lot of bad press about YouTube. Like over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, but also specifically within the past couple of weeks. And, you know, there's merit to a lot of it, for sure. But simultaneously, is such a weird, like, democratizing and enabling platform. My friends who don't even, like, I have a friend who has almost no concept of what I do for a living, except the only way he can relate to me is he has a guy he calls his car guy on YouTube that he watches. So whenever, you know, we're talking to, like, he's in a group chat with, like, me, Malf, and Josh. Whenever we're talking about, like, you know, stream or YouTube-related stuff, sometimes he'll be like, yeah, man, I feel you. Because, like, I was watching my car guy, and he was complaining about the adpocalypse. It's cool. And apparently with this guy, though, he just buys, like, you know, we, up in Canada, we call them beaters. You call them that in the rest of the world as well. Really, like, old, basically junk cars that get sold to scrap metal yards or literally junk yards, and you know, then he puts in his own money to fix it up. It's almost like a Pimp My Ride, but like he does it all himself. It's really cool. I'm not interested in it at all, but it's really cool. And again, it's neat that that sort of stuff can exist without having to rely on, you know, A&E to give him a, you know, run of 20 episodes to see if it has market viability, you know? I think that's really cool. So more power to you, Jet Lord. And you know what? The CRJ 200 seats, they aren't that comfortable. I agree. That being said, come on, my dude. I mean, it's a CRJ 200 regional jet. What's the longest flight that they go on? Like 2 hours? Pop in your headphones. You'll be there before you know it. I mean, come on. I get that it's not Emirates first class to Dubai, but you know, the rest of us peons down here, sometimes we gotta sit in uncomfortable seats, okay? Oh, good, it's an airplane episode. Dude, should be an airplane episode. You know why? Microsoft announced Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming out again. I'm very much for it. Dude, don't get me wrong. I love X-Plane. But X-Plane is made by a small company. It's a great game. But is not made by Microsoft. There's positives to that, but there's also negatives. There's like 8 planes in X-Plane. By the way, it's a striking amount of work and realism. I don't mean to besmirch their work. I mean, I've been enjoying the game myself for like over a year now. I bought a HOTUS for it. I checked the subreddit for it. And then one day I was just like, I don't need to see any more digital sunsets over, you know, Portland International Airport. But it's Microsoft, dude. They might screw it up, but they might not. I mean, Microsoft Flight, it was a game in which you fly, but it wasn't really like, you know, it wasn't what Flight Simulator enthusiasts wanted. And then on top, you're like, okay, then who's gonna buy a game in the year 2012 where you just like fly an airplane just for the thrill of it, you know? It's kind of like back in the day, to be able to have a video game with flying in it was like, oh my god, was this made by like the greatest computer game designer of all time? Remember when like a first-person shooter also had vehicle mechanics? I'm sure nowadays, you know, if kids played Halo, they're like 8 years old, they would just pop in the back of the Warthog and be like, you know, it works, of course. Back when I was 12, 13 years old, I play Halo for the first time, you see that car, and you're like, wait, dude, hold on, dude. There's 3 seats in that car. They wouldn't. Nah, dude, it's just world building. They're just showing you like, hey, look at this cool design. Then you press the button on it, you get in, and you're like, no way, dude. You can drive it. Wait a minute. If you can drive it, can you? You can get on the gun. Dude, get out. See if you can get in the passenger seat too, dude. It was like a revelation. The exact opposite of that is in Splinter Cell Blacklist when it switches from third person to a first person shooter for half of a mission. And you're like, dude, they're not really doing this, right? Don't get me wrong. I love Splinter Cell Blacklist. It is one of the most underrated video games of the past like 7 or 8 years. But that part is not so good. But, you know, all I'm getting at is that, you know, you kind of, I think when it comes to games with flying, they've either got to be like a Crimson Skies sort of deal, which I would also love to see come back in some way, shape, or form. Just vehicular combat in general. But that or a flight sim. Because Microsoft Flight was like, here's a glider, now just go toot around Hawaii for a while. You're flying around, you're like, I mean, it looks nice, but like, it doesn't look as nice as like Hawaii. And then I'm just kind of like flying around and going like, look at that digital waterfall. Wow, I mean, it's pretty. I gotta admire the work of the artist, but I could also just go to Google and be like, digital waterfall. What flight simulator players want, as far as I can tell from the time that I have spent in the community, which is admittedly still very small, is actually just, it's not that you don't want the feeling of wonder. You want that feeling of wonder, but you want it while also doing what ends up being a mundane series of routine tasks. You want to be like, okay, checking the flaps to 75, check, and then you look out your window, and then you're like, my God, Bob, look at that. Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, jewel of the Midwest. Flaps to 76. Okay, flaps to 76. Check. Breaker. You know, like, that's what people want. They don't want to be like, no, look, it's a double rainbow. I think that's what people want, anyway. It's my expectation. Anyway, I played Microsoft Flight for like 6 hours. So, I probably am in like the top 1% of people who ever played that game in the first place. I feel like I'm an authoritative source on this particular subject. Also, it was in a weird, like, area of video games where, like, nobody quite knew what free-to-play was yet. So I think it came out... I don't even remember where I got Microsoft Flight now. It was like Games for Windows Live Only or something like that. And I think it was free, but then, like, if you wanted to play beyond Tutorial Island, it was like $10 per airplane or it was. I don't want to, you know, slander Microsoft. I don't think they're selling too many copies of Microsoft Flight in today's day and age. But it was weird. I remember being like, it's like the corporate nightmare case for demos, where I was like, well, I played the demo just enough to get bored. So I don't need to buy the game anymore. And that's not a sign that the demo was a bad idea, I think. I think it's a sign that the game was just kind of not really that... It was fine for what it was, which is not very good. Anyway. Nobody's thought about Microsoft Flight except me for the past, you know, half-decade, so we don't need to make a habit of it. So Microsoft Flight. Not Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight. 88% of people like this game. Came out February 2012. It was free to play. Yes. Hold on. I'm looking it up on Wikipedia. It's been a while. Microsoft closed the PC marketplace on August 2012, 2013. It may still be downloadable, but no items can still be purchased from the marketplace. Wow. Well, it didn't last too long. 64 out of 100 on Metacritic. I mean, that's pretty much shows you what you want right there. That's the meat of it. All right, maybe I was even being too kind. It wasn't a glider, okay? Anyway, that's if we're continuing the conversation of like what stuff from E3 am I, excited about? I wouldn't say I'm like breathlessly excited for Microsoft Flight Simulator, 11 or whatever the heck they're going to end up calling it. But I mean, I do own a HOTAS. So, and after playing Ace Combat 7, which is a good game, don't get me wrong, but after playing Ace Combat 7, I realized I don't want to be flying through space, space as a medium, not as a, outer space. But I don't want to be flying through the air, shooting down enemy airplanes. I want to make a routine flight from YVR to Seattle SeaTac, land in such a way that the customers and passengers won't be like, whoa, first day on the job, and then go to the lounge, grab a double espresso, and, explore the city. It's weird. There's some... I feel like it's hard to explain why anybody likes anything. I know that sounds like a completely ridiculous statement, but like, I go through this all the time, because if I tell Dan, like, I'm like, hey Dan, I've been watching F1 lately. He's like, oh, what do you like about F1? And you always have to come up with things that are not objectively likable. I'm like, well, I like the fact that even though the same team has won literally every race so far this season, nobody knows who's gonna come 7th. And although that's true, and I do like the fact that there's cool midfield storylines. It's the kind of thing where people go like, eh. Like, why is Tarkov a fun game to play? Well, I like it because there's multiple different play styles. If you want to go in spicy, you can go in spicy. If you want to play it like low and slow, like a rat, you can play it low and slow like a rat. It's got good multiplayer, it's got good single player, blah, blah, blah. But some, if it doesn't appeal to you, it doesn't appeal to you. It's such a subjective question. I guess, I don't like being asked to sell people on things anymore. I feel like that's a young man's game, is like, yo, dude, I saw the coolest thing this weekend. You want to share in this hobby with me? And you'd be like, okay, sell me. Now as an adult, when I'm like, I like F1, and someone is like, oh, really? Well, tell me about why you like F1. Isn't it just a bunch of cars going vroom, vroom? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you. But also, if you then go, well, I don't know if you... Okay, more power to you. Don't watch it then. I didn't realize... I don't work for Formula 1. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. I got a full plate myself. You weren't invited. I thought we maybe could have a bonding experience, but if you're going to be like, you got to sell me a little harder than that. Well, no, I don't. I'm just going to go now. All right, you weird how to make friends and influence people son of a gun. I'll see you next time. That's not a knock on Dan specifically. That's a character I made up in my head. But I would be very surprised if Dan has not read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would probably bet... I would feel confident betting like $500 on that. And I'm not a gambling man. I feel like that's an ironclad lock. I'll even bet the kicker, which I think is that if you ask him if he's read How to Win Friends and Influence People, he's going to say something like, well, let me respond to your question with another question. Do you think is there something wrong with reading it? Which means, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. He'll say, I'll say this. I've heard a lot of advice from that book and taken it under advisement. I think you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to take the good and the bad. That's my Dan Giesling impression when being asked about a controversial subject like, what do you prefer, mustard or ketchup? Look, I don't want to ruffle any feathers here, but let me just say, isn't mustard a little too spicy sometimes? I love my good friend, Daniel, which is why I'm capable of insulting him. It runs the other way, too. I mean, there's a reason there's a Lion DAE emote. It's entirely because of a funny voice he puts on when I talk about things I'm passionate about. Ooh, we might as well. Alrighty. We have compass, right? I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to win this run. Obviously, mom's knife, ability to fly, blue candle, which is a little less appropriate now, but it's appropriate is a weird word for that. It's less useful now, mostly because mom's knife is just probably higher DPS. But mom's knife is defensively worse. It doesn't destroy bullets, and usually you get close to enemies to make it tick. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, those are the E3 announcements I've seen. Flight Simulator and a revival of an RPG that last was published like 17 years ago. And then From Software. Those are the big ones for me. I'm not anti-E3. I've said it many times. I got no problem with, hype. As long as it's restricted. Like, if you got breathless hype for marketing material and you restrict it to E3, 0% bothers me. The one thing, you knew there was going to be a but. And I've talked about this before. I talked about it on my stream on Sunday. But the one thing that bothers me is that some people treat E3 as this weird sort of like deified period on the calendar where you have to be positive, and then most of those people, many of those people, let's not be ridiculous, go back to being very cynical about the industry after that point. But they have this weird, like, theme park week where, like, no matter what gets announced, they're like, that looks amazing. And then, July rolls around, and they're like, you won't believe what Square Enix is doing to try to take your money. That's where I feel like the verbiage I used on my stream was, I feel like my brain is wired backwards for this sort of stuff. Where during E3, people are like, hey, what'd you think of that, huh? Nudge, nudge. And I'm like, well, it looks good, but it is like non-gameplay footage. It's a trailer, so they can really make it look however they want. People are like, you hate fun. I shouldn't have done this. Should have dropped the left hand. Maybe not, I don't know. We got an HP out of it. 2 lemon parties, that's pretty solid. But to finish that train of thought, they're like, you hate fun. And then for the rest of the year, like a game comes out. And you're like, I play it and I'm like, hey, it's pretty good. It's better than I expected it to be. It's not perfect, but I get what the developers were going for, and I think it was largely a success. And then you ask the other people, and they're like, sucks. Generic. I mean, I think just you gotta take a look in the man in the mirror. If you find yourself constantly being like, dude, why am I always dazzled by trailers? And then, underwhelmed by the final product. Well, it's the hype. A trailer. It's very easy to make a trailer that misrepresents the actual product. Look at my channel trailer. It says I played Trials Evolution. When you own yourself, it makes your argument immune to all criticism. Anyway. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!